Okay, it's time for me to do something that I've been meaning to do for a while. Rdunae WR Watches has a new version of their reissue or homage to the 6105-8110. This is the Rdunae R2X. Now, just to be clear about this, I wrote them and I said, hey, I'd be curious to see one of these. If you want to ship one out to me, I'll look at it. And they graciously sent me a sample to examine. So I haven't unwrapped it or anything. I just looked at it. This watch is the newest version. I don't know. I can't tell you what makes it better than the previous version. I heard that there was something about the crown that was different. But I'm busy just being distracted by it because the case fidelity already just looks great. Let me get this wrap off of here. Yeah, so this is the R2X. It's interesting, on their website, they refer to it directly as a 6105-8110, like without even, no prevarication, nothing whatsoever. Hey, look at that. Look at the loom pip. Insert's better. I wish that top edge, because the way they do their inserts is different than how Seiko did theirs. Seiko was an absolutely perfect friction fit. These are done with a sticky tape. Smooth turning. Yeah, look at that. They even got, sorry, I always look at that. It's my habit. They've got the tip of the loom pip triangle comes over the inside edge. They did a nice job on that. It's not perfect. The inside edge of that insert should be perfect, like a little 45-degree like bevel, and they did not do that, but they're real close. I mean, that's pretty good. And it has that nice sort of frosted finish to the numbers. I'm impressed with the pip. I really am. That looks pretty good. They did a nice job on the loom color too. Loom is not green at all. It has a very nice, ever so slight tan, which is good. The markers are still, they're round topped. The originals are supposed to be, they're absolutely flat. Just as flat as this thing. Also, you'll notice they kept them high polish. That's one thing about the 6105s, 8110s, 8119s, is that those markers are frosted. Now, this is mine. This is my 6105. I don't even know how many of these I've owned. This is mine. So mine has a service handset. It was on it when it came to me, and so I've kept it. So it has a 6306, 6309 service handset on it, but we can see the markers. They're flat, and they're a silver gray satin finish. Seiko did make a 6105 with high polish, 6105-8110. I'm sorry, 6105-8000 or 8009. But you can see that the tops of those markers are flat, 100% flat. This also has a service handset that just kind of came to me that way. You can see the tip. See the tip of the pip there? That triangle? See how it's got an edge as it comes over the top? That's that inner chamfer. But boy, they got the lume color pretty good, didn't they? Dial hash marks look good. You know, speaking of these markers, it's one of the things that details. I'd be a lot more forgiving. Here, let me put this down carefully. I'd be a lot more forgiving of how the dial markers looked if that was if they had a matte frosted finish, because it would really give, it would be a huge boost towards making this thing look truly authentic. And that's clearly what they're going for, is they want to make a new version of the 6105 8110. Profile on the case back is correct. You know, the old dusty old watch. Yeah, this watch has a personalized case back. It's been with me for a very long time. But the profile is the same. They did a good job. This that isn't like a painted on. That's an actual stamp, and it's filled with black. Some kind of a black paint. I'll be curious to see how that ages. I want to get this. Let me get these straps and bracelets and things off them. Let's compare these side by side. I mean, at first glance, doesn't it look good? Hang on a second, I had to. The case shapes are ever so slightly different at the lugs. Not the lower lug. Upper lug, just a hair. It's a little more curved off the top here. How do the rotating rings look? When it's pretty close. The original has more of an angle. This has that angle. It's a little flatter. It's more like, hang on just 1 second. No, they got it right. It's even the right diameter. A little taller, because the lower bit here is not machined out as much as that one is underneath. So there's less of a gripping area. This actually, the Rdunae has more grip area. The circular brushing is pretty fine. Seiko, when they did that, they used milling machinery, lapping machines, and so it has this kind of hatchy, chunky look to the brushing on top. But I mean, I'm really starting to just get into, you know, quibbles, basically. At first glance, they did a very nice job. There they go. Well, let's see how this works. Oh, wait, I want to look at the handset. Hands look decent. The main sweep hand is okay. The top surface is a little rounded. It should be, all the hands should be absolutely flat. The biggest glaring thing that I see is that the stoplight pip, the originals are pink. They're sort of an orangey pink. They're not red. When I see red like that, it's sort of a glaring thing for me. I'm considering going into this watch and frosting the marker tops and reluming that stoplight pip, because that would make this whole watch look a lot. It would be two things. It would get rid of two things that I noticed right away. I haven't wound this, by the way. I haven't played with it or checked it out or anything. One thing I do note that is I wish Rdunae wouldn't do is they are still not using thick ends for the fat diver bars. You can see there. So you have to use, you can use fat bars, but they have to have thin tips, which kind of defeats the purpose, if you ask me. Well, let's see. Well, crown is locked. It's a screw down crown. Finally, it makes sense. 6105 with a screw down crown. Doesn't it make sense? Pops out cleanly. So let's get this wound up. Hacks, winds, it's amazing. Seiko won't do that one simple thing, have a crown at 4, but Rdunae can for $155. Yep, there it is. There's your threaded crown tube. That's just impressive. Gosh darn it, would you stop? Static electricity, not your friend, man. No, they did a nice job with it. At first, you know, at glance, if you just look at it, it looks great. And for the price point, it's just ridiculous. And this is something that Seiko can do, and in fact has done. And the reason I say that is because, you know, Rdunae, they call this the 6105 8110. But what they've really recreated is not that watch. They've recreated the SLA 051. Seiko's own recreation of the 6105. This thing has more in common with that than the original 6105, mostly based on the dial elements. Let's take a look at that. This is Rdunae's homepage right here, and they've got, as they tend to do, they've got 3 versions of it. One is going to be the traditional, just like we see here, silver and black with white loom. On this really nice strap, by the way, I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit because I'm impressed with the strap. It's cool. In orange, not orange, in gold, and then this one, which with the reverse insert. We can kind of get a sense of it there. Now we go over here. That's their 6105. I mean, that's what they actually call it. We go here to the SLA 015. Now, what I'm about to say is probably going to be controversial, but I would say that Rdunae has managed to make a copy or a version of the 6105 8110 that is more faithful to the original than Seiko themselves. If you look at this, like the Rdunae, it's got round top markers. It too has a red stoplight pip, but it's got this later style. It's like a short sweep hand that's got this little extension on it. That's a Seiko thing. The loom is kind of green, which is not a Seiko thing, and it's especially not a 6105 thing, but that's what they went with. Rather than have the crown at 4, they had the crown at 4 and a hair, which is another weird thing they do. And with the date, with a black date wheel here at 4:30 instead of here. It's got what I believe is a ceramic insert. And so it doesn't look, and the font is different than the original as well. This is a $2,000 watch, people. That's a $2,000 watch. And it uses the same I mean, this thing has in it, it has a 7000 series movement in it. It's an updated one. It's an upgunned one. It's made fancier with bells and whistles and 26 jewels, but the fact remains it's a 7000 series based movement inside this watch, which is exactly what's inside the Rdunae. Well, not exactly what's inside the Rdunae, but you understand. They're both part of the same movement lineage, if you get it. But the freaking Rdunae is more faithful to the original than Seiko's own recreation. I just don't know. And with pierced lugs, which I can't stand because I think it breaks up the lines on the case. I can't explain why it messes up the lines on the case, but it drives me nuts. Has a more faithful case back. Well, in terms of the case back profile, not what's actually on it. I would like to see if Rdunae actually managed to, well, they kind of went their own way with their turtle thing on there. Yeah, this, I mean, there's something about the bezel insert too, is it looks thinner, doesn't it? It's more like a 62 MAS bezel than it is a 6105. $2,000 versus $155. I mean, it's a ridiculous, stupid no-brainer. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this is so much more faithful in so many more better ways than the SLA 051. I mean, how hard is it to get a white date wheel at 3 and a crown at 4? I mean, two absolutely critical elements, critical, irreplaceable elements for a 6105, and Seiko couldn't figure out how to do that right. Yeah, Rdunae, what they need to do is they need to make these marker tops frosted. They need to make this pinky orange. I would suggest frosting this Rdunae logo as well, because it would make it look a little more neat and a little more workmanlike. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, so there you go. The poor man's SLA 051. By the way, I said that I was going to talk about the strap. I'm actually really impressed with the strap. And they did a really nice job recreating this strap. It's nicely flexible. It mimics the original in darn near every single way. It has almost no branding on it. It's got like a little thing right there. But the cool thing is, look, they made it for fat spring bars. I could put this strap, I could take these fatty bars right off of this and put this strap right in place and it would work. In terms of Seiko accessories, this strap it's nice. It's nice, it's comfortable. I'm looking forward to trying it. I don't know, what do you think? Do you want to see the numbers? Let's look at the numbers. Okay, well let's turn this on. Might not be, fair to Rdunae because they just assembled the movements. They didn't service it or anything. Uh-oh. Okay, let's see what we're gonna see here. See how well this thing can hear. Hey. Now, this is a brand new movement. It hasn't run in at all, but I can't look at that. No beat error. And for those of you who haven't seen some of my earlier videos, I've seen Seiko, brand new Seiko watches, $4,000 and $5,000 watches that have like 0.2, 0.3 beat error, no problem. Looks like I got a decent movement. Amplitude's a little low for what these can do. When these are freshly serviced and clean with lubrication just the way it ought to be, they run in the 270s, no problem. Well, we're getting steady amplitude. Still holding there. It's a little bit low, but again, it hasn't run in. Let's try upside down. Let's see what happens. We shouldn't really see much of a change, if at all. And we, in fact, do not see much of a change at all. That's great news. That means we're going to have pretty good accuracy up and down. Yeah. Proof is in the numbers, and there are the numbers. These things are just a ridiculous value for the money. I mean, I would complain about this. If this was a brand new Seiko, I would complain about that amplitude number, even though it's not really bad. But, you know, for, you know, Rdunae, you know, producing this watch and selling it for $155 with this level of correctness, it's just ridiculous. Come on, are we going to see coming up? Are we going to see something better here? Real steady. Well, I'm pretty impressed with that, all things considered. You know, $155 takes a lot of the sting away. So let's look it over one last time. In conclusion, they did a pretty spectacular job. I know I keep saying it for $155. That's just, it's just silly. There are a few little things that they could do that would make the watch substantially better, just visually in terms of a first look. Making those markers frosted and changing that red stoplight to an orangish pink. They did just those two things, didn't change a thing else. This watch would, at a glance, would be very hard to tell from an original, except of course it doesn't have a Seiko logo. It's a really impressive piece. There's some minor, I don't even want to call them quality issues, but it's hard for anybody to beat Seiko's case finishing with the, you know, the sharp lines. Like Seiko's, the originals for these case transitions are just sharp. But I mean, for what this is and for what the price point is, it's magnificent. There are a few things that are also weird because of the size of the crystal. I'm not sure how this is. With the original, you see the hash marks doubled because the way the crystal is has this big, wide bevel. This is one of our Type 2 crystals, by the way. The most common type of crystal that these watches ever had. And you get this like doubled effect because of the refraction, which I think is actually a really cool 6105 thing. They don't have that here. So it makes the dial look a little smaller. They could beat that by having that bevel, because the bevel is kind of upright. They could beat that by having the bevel down more towards the 45. This crystal, by the way, they also, I meant to tell you, these crystals are, they're coated AR, but they're not blue. It's invisible AR, which gives it another nice vintage look. They also sell another version with a crystal that has no coating whatsoever. Yeah, I think those are my biggest complaints. That's actually probably my single one biggest complaint, is that the crystal is incorrect in its side profile, and so it's not picking up those dial hash marks. Can you even see them? Boy, not really. It just doesn't pick them up at all. I wonder if the dial is smaller. I wonder if the dial itself is smaller and that chapter ring is bigger. That's something I've seen with them before. This chapter ring, if you look at the black chapter ring in there, you can barely see it. It's pretty thin, and the hash marks on these dials go right to the edge. That chapter ring's pretty big, but I blame the crystal as well. It's weird, you can see the markers, but you cannot see the hash marks. I wonder why that is. That is pretty wacky. I blame the crystal. I blame the crystal. Anyway, that's a lot of words to say that this is a hell of a bargain. It's just, it's a crazy value for the money. And they're going to sell 1 billion of them. Imagine Seiko could too. Seiko could, I don't even know how many of these Seiko could sell. But instead, they make expensive, inaccurate reproductions that betray their own design heritage, which kind of seems to be their thing. So anyway, kudos to WR Watches Rdunae brand for coming up with something so nice. I'm going to put this strap back on, and I'm going to wear this thing. We're going to see how it goes. I have been wearing my Omega Mark IV. I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to put this one on. Unscrew this. Today's the 15th. Of course, I don't know if it's AM or PM. I'm not even hacking it to the right second. It's 254. There. I'll set it to the right time at another time. It's just impressive. Anyway, so if you're looking for one of these and you don't feel like shelling out for one of these, this one might hold you. It's pretty good. It's going to go on my wrist, and we'll see how it does. Okay, thank you much.